Hi everyone, my name is Rachel and welcome to the French Seams. This video is going to be about everything I got made up in August. So before we get started, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to everybody who's come back to my channel or who's watched any previous videos, left a thumbs up, left a comment and also subscribed. I got some really exciting news last month when I reached 1,000 subscribers. I couldn't believe it. So I was watching the numbers tick up and it got to 999 and then it rolled over to 1k. I really couldn't believe it. I was absolutely over the moon. I never really knew where this channel was going to take me really. I started it at the beginning of the summer on maternity leave, just enjoying my sewing, wanting to share my sewing adventures, my sewing makes, my sewing journey. So thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed and who has come along with me on this journey. I know you all have very busy lives, but taking the time out to watch my videos, I really appreciate it. So thank you. It really meant an awful lot to me. So August went by very quickly. We had some nice weather. We caught up with some family, which was lovely. So now it's September and it's definitely got a back to school vibe about it. We do have some great weather today actually, which is lovely. So I do have a washing out, which is great. But September, it always means more than say January, the start of a new year. September really means start of a new term, start of a new school, maybe a really kind of a clean slate, a fresh start. So it also makes me think of my absolute favourite movie where one of the characters says, I would send you a bouquet of newly sharpened pencils. So I wonder who can guess the movie. I'll pop it here. I absolutely love it. You've got mail. So I did get everything done that I wanted to in August, which was great. So I think I had 3 things to do and I got all of them done, which is great. You might notice that I'm a slightly different location today. So I'm not sure that I actually mentioned it, but my sewing room actually isn't in the house. It's in the shed at the bottom of the garden. So part of it is shed stuff with tools and all that kind of stuff. And then the rest of it is my sewing space and also a kind of an office worky space. So, but currently my husband is working there and the baby is napping upstairs. So I've decided to film down here. So very much sewing during nap time, which actually segues nicely onto the nap time sewist. So not sure if any of you follow the lovely Christine on Instagram. I'll pop her details in the description box, but you should definitely check her out. She's absolutely lovely. We've been chatting for a little while now about all kinds of everything, not just sewing related. It starts sewing and then it segues into all kinds of different conversations about life and family and children and work and everything. But she's absolutely lovely and she's recently started a YouTube channel. So she does have a few videos up, so I'll link them below as well. So you should really definitely check her out. The videos are really enjoyable and she's just such a lovely person. She really is. And I'd love to meet her in real life one day. We don't live too far apart. She just lives up the north, but it'd be wonderful to meet her in real life one day. So welcome to YouTube, Christine. So I'll get started with my first make. This is the Friday Pattern Company Sagebrush top. So I have made a few of these before, but this is something that I really wanted to try in this fabric, which is a beautiful broderie anglaise from Andrea in Beyond the Pink Door. So it's a beautiful cornflower blue and it's got a beautiful scalloped trim. So you can see here, and as soon as I saw this fabric, I knew I wanted to make that a feature. So I really wanted to make that the hem and also make that the little cuffs here. So I did try and it kind of worked out, but I'm really happy with the result. So as I said, I have made the sagebrush a few times before. So to give you an indication, I made a large at the bust and then an extra large at the waist and hips, which fit my measurements. I'm about 36, 37 or 34 and 42, so that kind of fit. So, and I have been doing that with most Friday Pattern Company patterns as well. So the sizing worked out fine. I just had to alter the length slightly to get the scallop on the hem here, which actually worked out quite well. So in my previous versions, the sagebrush top does have a very deep hem. I think it's 2 inches folded over to 2 inches, so it's a very deep hem. So I actually ended up having to add 3 inches to the length of it because I'm 5'9" to give me that extra length. But then what I had to do with this version was actually shorten it by about 1.25 inches so that the hem was the scallop basically. So I just had to line the fabric up, the pattern piece, to my old versions and kind of eyeball it and stuff and add in seam allowances. But I'm really pleased with how that worked out because if you get the hem wrong, game over. But it did work out really well. Another detail I did was the little ruffle here. Usually what you do is you have a strip of fabric and you fold it over and gather that. But with this one, I just left it 1 layer so you can see the little scallop edge here, and this worked out really well as well. The other alteration I made was to add a little button closure and a little thread loop. The thread loop is great actually. I watched a tutorial on Tilly and the Buttons site actually, how to do a little tiny thread loop, which works really well, rather than doing the full necktie with the bias binding, because the bias binding in this broderie fabric was a little bit tricky, and I did end up hand stitching this down as well. So really happy with how that worked out too, and also makes it easier if you put a cardigan or a jumper over the top that doesn't have that bulk at the neck. So onto the sleeves, and this is where I really had a challenge. So I cut them initially, and I had measured out the length that I wanted the little scallop to come to about here, measured it against my other version in which I had reduced the size of the sleeve, because it is quite a voluminous sleeve. So I had reduced that down, and I was just going to have a lovely kind of, not a straight cuff, a slight bit of gather here, but then with the scallop ending roughly here. So did all that, it seemed to be fine, and then tried it on. It did not work. It was way too tight across here, and the reason why, and now I know, I'm obviously not that good at pattern drafting. I never claimed to be. The arm side is quite far up the shoulder here, which I hadn't actually realized before, because that then allows for a larger sleeve. So if you see here, this is where the arm size starts, and my shoulder actually ends here, so it's quite far in towards the neckline. So what I had done in making the sleeve a little bit smaller was made this just way too tight. The reason the arm size is there is to allow for the puff sleeve, and for it not to start here, and for the balloon sleeve to start here, as it were, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So that definitely didn't work. So unpicked both sleeves, and I just decided to put back in a bit of the volume. So it's not as voluminous in this fabric, which is great. I think in my cotton lawn version, it's much more puffy. So what I lost then was the scallop at the end, because I'd been cutting all these pieces on the selvage, but obviously I'd used up the fabric at that stage and used the end of the scallop on the previous sleeve. So what I did was I cut the previous sleeve, and I had a little band including the scallop, and then what I did was I added it to the end of this sleeve and put a little bit of elastic inside. So it's quite like if any of you have made the Tilly and the Buttons Agnes with the little gathering here and on the sleeve with a little bit of elastic, where you literally just stretch it and sew a zigzag and it gathers itself up. So that's what I did inside the cuff here, and it seems to have worked pretty well. So I don't think you'd necessarily notice that these are two separate pieces. We'll just call it a feature, or a design feature, isn't that right? Not a mistake, a design feature. So these ended up a really good length as well, and you've got a little bit of a puff here. Might be a little bit of a bow peep going on, but I really enjoy this top. I think it's really pretty, really happy with how it came out. The colour is just gorgeous, and the fabric is beautiful, and I think it pairs well with a nice pair of white jeans for the summer. So let's eke out the last few days of summer. So another lovely, really enjoyable make. So I looked to see if I mentioned everything. I think I did. So no, I was really pleased with how it came out, and if anybody does want to give this a go as well, I'd be happy to help with measurements and how I worked out where the selvage needs to go on each of the hems, and I know now what I did wrong with the sleeves. So that is my first make. I'll go grab my second make. So, and I'm back with my second make, which are my watermelon ice pop pajamas. So this fabric again is from Andrea at Beyond the Pink Door, and as soon as I saw it, I knew it had to be a pair of really fun summer pajamas, and I'm delighted with how these came out. This is the Itch to Stitch Lego tank for the top, and then for the pajama bottoms is the Tilly and the Buttons Juno pajamas from her book. I think it's Stretch. I'll check that. I can never remember which book it is. So delighted with how these came out. I have made the pajama bottoms before. I did make a slight difference to these. I added 1.5 inches to the rise. I'm 5'9". I should say I made a size 7 in these, and then also I added 8 inches to the bottom. So usually the pajama bottoms are gathered into a very deep cuff, and I have done that in my previous versions, but for these ones I wanted them quite loose, so I just added that extra bit of length to make them come down to just at my ankle, and just continued on the line so they didn't taper as much, and they seem to work out really well. Then for the top, as I said, the Itch to Stitch Lego tank. So thank you very much to Michelle at Sewing Bunny for the recommendations for these patterns. They worked out absolutely perfectly. So thank you. This Itch to Stitch Lego tank is actually a free pattern, and I would definitely recommend it. It came up so nicely. I was so happy. It's a lovely racer back, which is really nice, and this would be lovely actually. I want to make a few just as summer tops as well, not just pajama tops. The neck is finished by a binding, as are the armholes, which both went in absolutely perfectly. You just follow the notches work out absolutely wonderfully. And then I finish it off with a little Rosy Cheeks label. I made this "I Can Do Anything" at the bottom, which came out really well as well. So this pattern, I made a size 8 at the bust, which is 37 roughly inches, grading out to a 10 at the waist and the hips, which is pretty much spot on my measurements if I grade out. It does give the finished garment measurements, which again, the bust, there's no ease at all, and then the waist and hips are slightly bigger, which seem to work out perfectly. It's very, very comfortable for pajamas, but also will be perfect for just a tank during the day. It was very interesting the way they put in the neck bands and the sleeve bands, I should say. So I always usually just overlock the edges when you're doing the loop and then just fold it in half. But that does add a huge amount of bulk. So what they say in the pattern is, and I don't know how this never dawned on me before, if you snip into the seam and fold each overlocked edge to a different direction and then fold it in half, it gives a much, much flatter finish. So absolutely genius. It was a wonderful little tip that I found out in this pattern anyway, so that was great. So the binding does sit a lot better, and I've started doing that now in each of my other jersey makes, in other neckbands and cuffs and things, so it seems to work out really, really well. It's a very simple, well-fitting top. I think it is drafted for 5'6" and I am 5'9", but I did measure the pattern piece and it looked okay actually. I didn't think I'd have to add on any length at all, and actually, as it turned out, I had to remove an inch at the end to make it sit where I wanted to on my hips. So it does end up quite a long bodice, so just to bear that in mind if you are in and around 5'6", or if you do usually need to add or subtract length from a bodice. I usually do, as a default, add at least 1 or 2 inches to a bodice, but I didn't have to in this instance, and it worked out perfectly. One thing I should say about the racer back, actually, because it's pajamas, it's not an issue, but if you were wearing this as a top, you might just want to wear a racer back bra or use the little clips or something, because I think your bra strap would show at the back, is just my top tip. So no, very, very happy with how those came out actually. So I've been wearing them, they've been washed and worn, and the fabric has stayed absolutely beautiful. It's such a vibrant colour, it's absolutely gorgeous, so delighted with that. I did really want to use up the scraps of the fabric to make my little boy a t-shirt. I think I mentioned that in my previous video, that I wanted to make him the Waves and Wild Eclipse tee, which was a lovely little t-shirt pattern. So there was literally, when I say scraps left over after this, there was scraps left over. So I think I bought 2 meters and I got the pajama bottoms and the top, and there was the tiniest little bit left over. However, I was determined to use it up because it's such cute fabric and my little boy really likes it with the ice lollies. So I was able to salvage a little tiny bit and just use it for a little bit of detail. So this is the Eclipse tee that I made. So I managed to make the sleeves and the binding. So this is a really cute pattern again. I really would recommend it. My little boy is almost 3 and I made him a size 4, which fits really well. I did have to take off about 1.5 inches of the length actually to came out quite long, but everything else was perfect. I used up this bit of scrap as well. I think I used this to make my Rio Ringer tee during the summer as well, with the kind of greeny binding. So I did a little bit of this left over as well, which is great. And I think it matches perfectly to the little ice lollies. So he's really happy with it, his ice lolly t-shirt, so he gets very upset when it's in the wash. So it's just out of the wash, so I think he'll be wearing this tomorrow. I finished this off with another little Rosy Cheeks label made by Mummy, which is absolutely adorable as well. And I don't know, can you see here, my pride and joy is my twin needle. So I did mention, I think in the last episode, dear me, like a TV show, my last vlog, that I didn't particularly like how the zigzag stitch looked. Oh, that was it, yes, it was on my Tilly and the Buttons Lotta dress. So I don't particularly like how the zigzag looks, and I don't have a cover stitch. So a few people commented, so thank you so much. This set me on the right path. So I love when people comment and you just get such an idea from it. It's wonderful. It really is the hive mind. It's great. So they said about a twin needle, which I had tried before and it never worked. I just could never get it to work. So my machine has the spool thread holder, and then it has, say, the bobbin where you wind the bobbin holder, and there's nowhere else really for a thread spool to go. So I've been putting the thread on the thread spool, then another bit of thread on the bobbin, and the tension was all out because obviously the bobbin is much tighter, and it just never worked out. So a few genius people mentioned putting the 2 on the 1 spoke. I hope this makes sense. I really hope this makes sense. So I wound a little bobbin, put that on the thread spool, then put another thread spool on top of that, and then fed them both down into my little twin needle. It worked perfectly. I couldn't believe it. It looks absolutely fabulous, and it's got the nice bit of stretch and everything. There's a slight bit of tunneling where it's a little bit raised in the middle, but I'm not that worried about it. So I even managed to do it on the little cuffs as well. So I was just so delighted with how that came out, because as I say, I'm really not a fan of the zigzag. And it looks fine in some instances and people like it as a design feature, but I personally much prefer how the twin needle looks. So I'm absolutely delighted with the finish on that. So thank you, Hive Mind and wonderful sewing people, you came to my rescue. So, and after this, I had the tiniest little bit left, so I went hunting for a little tiny pattern for my other little boy, my littler boy, and I came across the Passion for Pirates Teeny Beanie, which has to be one of the cutest patterns in the whole entire world, and I was able to make him a little hat. So it's a little tiny beanie hat, and this one has two little bear ears, which is utterly adorable. My little boy is almost 7 months, but I measured him and this is the 9 to 12 month hat and it fits him perfectly, and it is just super cute. So he always goes out with a hat and usually a cardigan. As my dad says, a jumper and a hat is what you put on a child when the mother is cold. So yeah, that definitely applies to me. So I was able to make him this little tiny hat. So it's two little ears, and then it's two pieces front and back for the hat, gathered as a little dart here to give the shaping, which is great. And then it's a little band at the bottom, and you just then fold that up to give a really nice finish. So how cute is that? So because I loved this so much, you can guess where I'm going. He got loads more. So there's this variation. You might remember this from my Billy sweatshirt a couple of months ago. And this is the variation with the little knot on the top. And then this, I also have an Agnes t-shirt in this. So we matched entirely one day when I had my Agnes t-shirt and my Billy sweatshirt on. So this one is super cute. Then I had another bit of fabric. You might remember this from my Audrey top. And I really enjoy how I was able to do the stripes a different way. I would say that was on purpose, but it absolutely wasn't. I was literally so short on fabric and this worked out really well. So this is just the straight version with no ears, and even the pattern matching and stuff works at the top. So that one's super cute, and this is just beautiful fabric. It's so nice. I was so glad to be able to use that up. And then finally, number 4 is this beautiful little bee print. So I had made my older boy a pair of pajamas in this, oh golly, last year I think at this stage, and it's just super cute. Another with the little knot variation. So this is such a good way to use up little scraps, and they're just so cute. So if you have any children in your life and you have little jersey scraps, I'd set them all aside, because it just uses barely any fabric and just it's 3 pattern pieces, and it's super cute. So they're the teeny beanies. Now, so I will now move on to my third and final make. And this is my third and final make, and this is the Friday Pattern Company Davenport dress. So I've got so into Friday Pattern Company patterns. I really have, with the Davenport, the sagebrush and the wilder gown. They're just fabulous patterns, they really are. So I'd seen the Davenport on a number of people on Instagram and thought it just looked so nice. So I really wanted to give it a go. And then I saw this fabric with Andrea in Beyond the Pink Door, and I just thought this would be perfect. And I'm just so delighted with how it turned out. It was a journey, which I'll take you on shortly, but just so happy with the result. So it's a beautiful dress, and dare I say it, it might be nice for work when I go back to work very shortly. So that's going to be very scary, but it might ease me in if I have some beautiful new dresses to wear. I'll still be at home, but at least I can feel a little bit more worky while working from home. So I shall crack on and tell you about my adventures wearing this, or making this dress I should say. So when I mentioned this in my last video that I was going to make it, I got so many comments of people saying, be really careful cutting out the pattern, you know, make sure you do each piece properly and the number pieces for each. So going into this, I was just so determined not to make a mistake. I had all the pattern pieces cut out properly, laid out perfectly on the floor. I was determined not to make a mistake. Reader, I did. I made so many mistakes in this, and it is not to do with the pattern or anything. This is purely on me. So before I start, actually, I should say what size I made. So I made a large grade into an extra large, which seems to be my standard in Friday Pattern Company, and that worked out fine. There is a huge amount of ease in this pattern with the gathering here. So there's about 10 inches I think of ease in the top alone. So no, that the sizing is absolutely perfect. It's drafted again for 5'6", so I just had that in my mind as well when cutting it out. So the pattern cutting was interesting. So I had everything cut out perfectly, and everything labelled, pins ready, pattern weights, everything. I even had bought a new rotary cutter blade. I think I bought my last one at the Knitting and Stitching Festival in Dublin in 2019, I think. So yeah, I was well overdue a new blade. And now I can't believe how well it cuts. So yeah, top tip, change your rotary cutter blade more than every 2 years. So I was all set to cut everything out. Everything was going great, brilliant. So then I had it laying on the ground and I was like, there's something very strange here. I've got an awful lot of pattern pieces left and not that much fabric. So I did a quick check. I had ordered 2 meters of fabric thinking that'll be fine for a dress. It'll be absolutely fine. No, they recommend 2.9 meters for this dress. So usually when a pattern company does the fabric requirements, they might say maybe 2.1, 2.2 meters. You can kind of get away with maybe 2 meters in that instance. No, they really mean 2.9 meters. They really do. And there's no messing around. So I was left with literally scraps and I had the whole of the ruffle pieces to cut out, which, and I didn't realize there's 4 ruffle pieces you have to cut out. It's basically 2 for the front, 2 for the back. So it's quite a substantial part of the dress really. I couldn't have left that out because the rest of it was super short. And then of course I realized that I had actually forgotten to cut out the back casing entirely. So I had that left over as well. Then I realised that for the yoke pieces, it had said cut, I'm not quite sure how it said cut 4, which is implying 2 pairs. No, I just cut 4 in 4 layers, the same way facing. So I'd made a mistake with the yoke, I'd made a mistake with the casing, and then I had just missed out the ruffles altogether. So, oh, and then I cut myself with my rotary cutter just to top it all off. So as I was frantically running around trying to find a plaster, I went on the Beyond the Pink Door website and thank God Andrea had a little bit left over. So thank you so much. So I quickly ordered some. While I was there, I might have ordered a few more bits and pieces. I was paying for shipping anyway. But you'll see those in my next video. But so I was so pleased she had some left over. So ordered that straight away. It came here super quick. Literally, it came in the front door. It went straight to the washing machine, went straight from the washing machine out on the line. And I was able to then cut it out later that day. So I was so pleased. I don't know what I would have done if the fabric had gone because it's just so beautiful. So I eventually managed to cut all the ruffle pieces, cut the back casing that I had forgotten about entirely, and cut out the yoke pieces properly. So yes, if you are making this, please don't do what I do and just make an entire hames of it. Even though I was warned by so many people and going into it, I was so prepared to do this absolutely perfectly and I'd done all my notches and my pinning and everything, but it still went absolutely pear-shaped. So anyway, we got there in the end, a few days late, but in the end I was able to construct this properly. So the actual construction of it is perfect. The Friday Pattern Company instructions are great as always, and it was a really, really enjoyable make. So I'll go through a few of the little details. So it's quite difficult to see in this fabric because it's quite busy, but there's a little elastic here for the neck. It does look really pretty, but the one thing about it is it gives you the measurement for it, but once it's in, you can't really change the measurement, if you know what I mean, because you've got the casing here and then you've got the yoke pieces and the yoke at the back. So you can't measure it on yourself until all the pieces have been attached, and by then you're not going to unpick the whole thing. So I would make it a tiny bit bigger if I make another version. It's just a little bit high on me here, but it's absolutely fine. So, but that's a really pretty detail. Then, as I say, it's got the nice kind of diagonal seams here with the yoke. So it's fully lined effectively, and it's got the burrito method for the back yoke as well, which is really, really pretty. So it gives a beautiful finish inside. Then it's got these beautiful little shoulder ruffles here, which are very, very cute. So again, it's tricky to see in the fabric, but you can just kind of see the little wings out here, which is lovely. Beautiful sleeves gathered into a nice elastic casing cuff. Oops, random thread. Oh dear. And then the elastic channel at the waist, which I did elastic here as well because I didn't want to put in the drawstring, even though I do have all the casing done and the little gap in the middle and everything for the drawstring. But I didn't want a drawstring the way you kind of have to pull it and tie it and then the gathering is all messed up and stuff. So I just did an elastic through it, which works out really well. I think it's far more comfortable and there's no faffing with drawstrings or anything. And then it goes into a lovely skirt and then the lovely ruffles at the end, which nearly broke my heart. There's an awful lot of gathering in it, but delighted with the overall finish. Michelle Sewing Bunny again. She has a vlog in which she made a Davenport as well. So hello, Michelle. I think we both came across the same issues in this. So in the picture on the cover, which I should show you here. So this is it. This is how it looks. First of all, I think the sleeves look really, really short. So they come up like halfway between elbow and wrist. I think they look quite short. So I don't particularly like that length on me. I prefer them to be a lot longer. So I looked at the finished measurements and I think it said 18.8 or something for the sleeve. So I measured and I was like, well, that's actually quite long. That doesn't look that short at all. So I think I added on an inch and a half, I think, to the sleeve to make it a little bit longer. And I could have added in a tiny bit more, to be fair, but I think it's slightly misleading, the length of the sleeve there, but I was glad that I went to the extra length in the end. And then also the skirt. So on the picture on the pattern cover, it looks like it comes down to her knee as well. So if it's drafted for 5'6" and I'm 5'9", I thought I'd have to add on a bit of extra length as well. So the length and shorten lines are on the skirt piece, not on the ruffle. So I did add on a bit of extra length here, and then when I did try it on, it was a little bit long on me. So at that stage, I'd overlocked all the gathering into the skirt. So I think Michelle unpicked hers, and fair play to you, you're so good. I didn't, I just cut a bit off the ruffle, which is a shame really. So I think you could have the length and shorten lines on the ruffle to make it a bit longer, but then I was thinking about it, if there's 4 ruffle pieces, that would add on a huge amount of yardage again to the fabric requirement, so maybe that's why they don't do it. So I was able to hem it and it comes just on my knee, but again, proportionally it might have been nicer if the ruffle was a bit longer on me rather than the skirt being a bit longer, but that aside. But no, I was delighted with how it came out in the end. I did hang it for a little while and the skirt didn't drop too much, and I was able to level it off a little bit and just finish it there by turning under the hem, so it came out really, really nicely. So I think it'll look lovely in the autumn winter. I can put on black tights maybe, so just very, very happy with it. And I think because the fabric is so lovely and light, you could put a little cardigan over it as well and it wouldn't look too bulky. I added 1.5 inches to the bodice as well, which I was very glad I did. So it hangs a little bit like this. So when I stretch up, there's no massive stretching going on. So and again, I was able to just measure the elastic I needed for my waist, which came out perfectly as well. Oh, I forgot the best bit. It has pockets. So little slant pockets here, which are really, really nice. They do stick out a tiny little bit, so you do have to kind of press them slightly. They are understitched and everything, but the pockets are great. So who doesn't love a dress with pockets? So overall, I was really, really happy with this. In the end, it did take a while longer than I thought it was going to. It was a process, but when I actually got each of the pattern pieces ready, the construction was lovely and I'm just delighted with the result. I think this is a beautiful dress. I think you could have it in so many different fabrics for different occasions if you're going out, or you could make it more work appropriate or party appropriate, whatever you're into this season. So just delighted with it. I think it's such a pretty dress with all different details. I think in different fabrics you'll be able to see the details more, but just so pleased with this, and I just adore this fabric. I think it's absolutely gorgeous with my drafts and zebras and everything, so pleased with this. So that is my third and final make. So thank you very much for watching today. I would love it if you'd give this video a thumbs up, and please feel free to leave a comment below. You know how much I love engaging and having the chats. And also if you fancy subscribing and add to my 1,000 subscribers, which I'm so happy about. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a great day and that you're all keeping safe wherever you are. I'll hopefully be back very soon with my September plans. So a whole new season. I'm still clinging on to summer, we all know that. So thank you very, very much for watching again, and I hope you all take care. Bye.